What's good, my fellow peasants? How are you all doing? So I want to talk about the Arden DLC, because why the hell not? It could happen. In fact, it's very likely to happen. If anyone hasn't seen the clip, check this out. This is what Tabata said about it.
Will you go deeper in the past of the character of Arden?
Yes, we do plan on doing something like that, so you can have to look forward to seeing that.
That's great.
Boom. Please look forward to it. So it's no surprise, being as I get requests every single week. Pez, do more Arden videos. Arden videos. I love the Arden videos. Can you speculate on what the DLC might be? So that's what I'm going to do in this video. Just speculate, because while they could literally do anything with this DLC, I mean take it into some of the craziest directions you could even imagine, I think there are certain avenues that they're gonna have to approach, or there's gonna be certain questions they have to answer. Because although Arden had probably one of the best fleshed out characters in the story, I mean he had a lot of stage time, there's still way more fleshing out that they can do with this character. There's still things we don't know, and that's where I'm going to start at number 5. 5 of the possible things that I think they could do with the Arden DLC. Fleshing out the events of the game. I think this is pretty likely. So this is the route where, just like the Prompto, Gladiolus and Ignis scenes, they're set during the events of the game. We're just going to see it from now Arden's point of view, and the way Tabata said it in the interview, he did say, we have seen the game from Noctis' point of view, we want to show the events of the game through the brothers' eyes, and also the main villain. That's how he worded it, so it kind of implies that it will be set during the game. And you know what? I really like this idea. This I could actually get on board with, because seeing the same events of the game, it might sound boring to some people, and I know some people want the 2,000 year flashback, but I think doing it during the events of the game would be very interesting if they include these guys. Gentiana, Ifrit, this summon should take a huge role. If they don't, I'll be super disappointed, because one of the huge overarching plot points in this entire game, it is Arden versus the gods. It is Ifrit, the betrayer, versus the other 5. He betrayed the 6, and we only know very tenuous reasons why. We know we've gone through Perona 77's theory, we said how we believe it is Eos, and Solheim and the goddess being imprisoned. We've assumed it's all of that, but we don't actually know, so any kind of confirmation could even happen if the game is set during the events, because while we were off with Noctis, Arden, he could easily have been speaking to Shiva behind the scenes, and I really think there's an interesting dynamic between Arden and Shiva, and I want to see how Ifrit also acted behind the scenes, because Ifrit and Arden, they were working together the entire time. How much were they together off screen? And we never saw any of this. And this is the other routes. This is route number 2 they could take. Go back 2,000 years ago. Go back to when Insomnia was first forming. God damn, I can barely speak. Go back to when Izunia betrayed Arden. Now, really explain who Izunia was. What was the situation around the betrayal? Was Arden all at fault, or was he totally a victim? No, really go back to it, because the only way you're really going to understand Arden is if we understand the betrayal that was made against him. We don't know really who it was by, we don't know how it affected him, so that would be absolutely the strongest way. This route would be my favourite, I think, but this is the interesting thing, it's neither this one or this one. There's nothing to say that it couldn't be set during the events of the game, and stuff 2,000 years ago could be shown in flashbacks. In fact, when I think about it, the flashback routes would be far easier, because a 2,000 years ago Insomnia would have been very, very different in model. Or at least if they want it to seem realistic, they're going to have to make it look different. And that's a hell of a lot to build for a DLC, so I think it's also about resources. How much time, how much resource are they going to put into this Arden DLC? You get the point. I'm going to go on to the third route now, and as I talk about this, I'm just going to quickly intervene with what would the gameplay be. This kind of ties into this third route. I'm not sure what the gameplay would be. When Gladiolus has been combat, when we know Promptos will be a shooter, I think it'd be a first person. It might be third person, but I kind of doubt it. And there's also going to be Ignis's, which is like a puzzle. So really Arden's gameplay could be anything. It could be a straightforward combat. If they did that route, then Arden would probably have Noctis' moveset, I would imagine, being as they both have the armatures and their fight style is more or less the same. But they could even mix it up with the gameplay. I was imagining things they could do. So the idea I had was, what if they switched between Star Scourge Arden and normal Arden? Oh, that would be so dope, and they had different abilities. And you can imagine Star Scourge would be able to summon demons and iron giants and Nagas. It would be cool, but I'm totally getting sidetracked. The third route would be 30 years ago. So 30 years ago to the events of the game. Now the reason I pick that or when the game started, is because that was when Arden first started making his move. That's when the plan he'd been working on for thousands of years, he finally decided to kick it into place. That's when he built the Magitech. With that, he took down Shiva, he introduced him to the Niflheim Empire, and he started strategically moving Niflheim against Insomnia to more or less get them cornered. The entire war was Arden's fabrication. Well, maybe they could explore that. How did Arden introduce himself? No, they could even then go into the creation of the Magitech. The thing is with the game, they showed so much on the technology of Solheim being the same as Niflheim that I really think they could even do that. So how did Arden find the secrets of Solheim to create the Magitech? Did he go to Pitios? Did he go to Coastal Mark? And perhaps you could see that side of Arden's story. Did Morris, the king before Regis, did he ever have to deal with Arden? So that's one possible route. The fourth route I'm going for is the 10-year time gap. So that's a considerable length of time where Arden more or less is king of the world. So he achieves the Dark World the same as Kefka did in FF6. While Kefka had it a year and he ruled over the world as a crazy as fuck clown god thing, Arden is more or less in the same situation. He rules over the demons which are plaguing the world, and he's sat on his throne in Insomnia. So what happened during that time frame? And this would be a perfect route to get an Arden DLC that included Dark World, because so many people want to know about more Dark World, to experience, to go out in it, see how the world fell to darkness, and how people tried to survive. That's the thing, as it was declining, needless to say there were going to be people who were fighting, they were trying to fight back, and maybe they could go crazy with a DLC that tackled that, and it would make sense because it would still be set during the game. So it would fall right in line with Tabata's quote about seeing the game through the main antagonist's eyes, and this would not be a bad route either. I think they even said when they're going to be introducing a custom avatar system, and the character we create will be a Kingsglaive member. Perhaps even in that DLC you could have this whole cat and mouse with switching between your custom avatar Kingsglaive and trying to fight Arden, and then also do it from Arden's point of view, because that way we all get to see that villainous side of Arden that we love, and there will be a focus for him. It could be this Kingsglaive character who's trying to stop him and he has to deal with, but then it can flip to Arden and we can see his side. And this is where I'm going to go into point number 5. So I've been asked by a lot of people, Pez, do you really think Arden is a villain? Do you think he was really trying to save the world deep down inside? And I've mentioned things similar. I've said that Arden, he purposely makes himself seem the more of the villain than he is, or he kind of puts the act up so he can be the monster that Noctis needs him to see him as, so he can become the King of Light. Well, that's what I'm going to put for number 5, a total 180 of Arden's character. So I'm not sure how I feel on this route, because I still want Arden to be a villain. I still want him to be someone who gave into his anger, into his desire for revenge. By no means do I want Arden to suddenly become some secret hero with a great, kind, loving heart. No, that would just ruin Arden's character. But I wouldn't mind him becoming more relatable, or even more human. So a couple of examples that I could think of is, there was so much clear evidence that Arden had a bad leg. You know, they kind of had this whole bad leg theme running in this game, and I don't think they did it for no reason. So Regis, his leg becoming bad, Noctis then having the knee brace, and even in the artwork all the kings wore a knee brace. Well, you got hints that Arden had a dodgy leg throughout the game, and it was in the CGI movements of the character. This all got covered on a 50-page document. Well, now we can see all of that. You can show us that, perhaps when he's off screen having to fix his knee up, and even just show a side of him dealing with watching Noctis become the King of Light, because the thing with Arden, I'm pretty convinced this character has schizophrenia. I am absolutely no expert at diagnosing someone's mental state, but with Arden Izunia, one minute he could be this suave, happy, calm, relaxed, and very polite character. Not to say he wasn't still ominous, he would be this picture image of a gentleman one second, and then the next, he would change. And I remember the part of the game when I first saw that and it really clicked. Whoa, Arden has two sides to him, and it can flip quickly as a switch. It was in the train scene when Arden had Prompto's gun. I can tell you now that Noctis was not the only one who recoiled when they saw Arden's face, and then seconds later, up on the train scene, Arden's back to being a posh gent on this most auspicious of days. And the final route, and I just realised that there is a 6th route. I was only going to do 5, but I've just thought of one. A 6th route could really just be something completely trippy. Again, I've got to reiterate, this is all just speculation. I've just been really curious because I want this DLC. I'm hyped for it. And as I've been thinking about what it could be, it's just turned into limitless possibilities. And number 6 could literally be a parallel universe. Again, there was that World of Versus rumour. And when we've seen that time has been manipulated in this game, I've even got that time stitch theory with Regis. The one that shows where the cycle's happening again and again and again. And if we combine that with Arden being able to control time and just everything to do with this being a fantasy world, they could even do something in the crystal that flipped off into a different parallel universe. And again, that all comes down to how much resource will that take to build, what's most likely for Square Enix to do. I think if it requires an open world setting, it's going to be a lot of work, but if they plan for the DLC just to be linear, kind of like the Gladiolus one, it's far less work. Perhaps they could even mix it up. They could have Arden in Insomnia in the open world, but then they could do a couple of flashbacks or go into a crystal realm and that would be linear. It could go in just about any direction. So those are the 6 things I think Square Enix could do. Regardless of which route they take, all I hope is that the summons are involved, that we learn more about Arden's betrayal and his backstory, and whether it be for good or evil, just show us more of Arden's character. People want to see it, people want to know more about this character, and they could really tie this in with the hidden underlay of story, because I'm pretty sure that there is. With the gods, with the summons, I'm almost confident that a lot of the theory stuff on Solheim is true. Arden is the time to explain all of this. I kind of feel like Arden DLC would be one of the last DLCs we'd have, so it would be the finale. This would be the time to finally have all questions answered, or at least that's what I hope. Arden is one of my favourite Final Fantasy villains. I really can't decide between Arden and Caius Ballard, just personally, but honestly since even just chapter 13, because chapter 13 showed even more of Arden, showed just how much he was manipulating the events behind the scenes. He was the one who placed the Sword of the Father, he was the one who finished off Ravers, and he was the one who threw the notes. Arden orchestrated everything down to a level of detail that no other FF villain, or really any video game villain, did. And I don't even think Arden gets enough credit for just how much he orchestrated everything, bar the ones we know about. Just to round this video out and blow your minds a bit more, the Genesis artwork, I honestly believe that besides just grooming Noctis, grooming him to become the King of Light, I also think he was grooming Ignis, Gladiolus and Prompto. I even think he did a lot of other tasks that were seemingly meaningless, but were in fact very meaningful. So another example of that is bringing Ultros into Insomnia. I'm 99.9% convinced that it was Arden who brought Ultros. But why? Why, Pez? Why would he bring Ultros? It's because of the Genesis artwork. Look at it, guys. This Genesis artwork was more than just something for us fans. This is a canonical prophecy in the game, because you actually see it on the wall of Insomnia. And Arden would have seen this, and this is a prophecy of the King of Light. Now think of how deep that is. That means that Arden has to fulfill this. And what does he see? Well, just looking at these 4 characters, he sees the King of Light in the middle, which is Noctis, but he also sees 3 people with him. He sees the helper, which is Gladiolus, the one picking up the other character. He sees the friend on the other hand side, but he also sees the blind man. And that's why I think Arden blinded Ignis. It was all to fulfill a prophecy. He was changing the lives of the brothers as well as just Noctis. And that's why I also mentioned Ultros, because down below you see Ultros getting speared. Was he working towards this Genesis artwork the entire time? Was this his blueprint? And if it is the case, then it makes 100% more sense why Arden even showed the Omen to Regis. So in the Omen trailer, when he showed Noctis going on his own, that was the entire reason why Regis sent the brothers along, because Arden wanted to fulfill the prophecy. You get it, he wanted the 3 bros to go along. That is deep as hell. There is so much to do with this DLC. I can't wait to see what they pull out the bag. And no matter which of the 6 options I've listed here they go with, I know I'm going to enjoy it, as long as it answers questions. I don't even care what the gameplay is going to be. I mean, the gameplay could literally even be managing Magitech airship units in an assault on Giantess Shiva. That could literally be the DLC. In fact, that actually sounds pretty amazing. Oh my goodness, that would be dope if they do the 30 years one. Imagine it. Imagine we control the ships. We have to plan down the attack on Shiva. Now that is one Colossus fight I can get behind. A giant bikini-clad Shiva fight. Bringing down a sexy summon waifu. But let me know in the comment section below, which of the 6 do you want most? Are there any ideas you've got that I haven't put in this video? And generally just discuss all things Arden. Until the next video. Kubo!